Good evening, and thank you for joining us for tonight's meeting to discuss the design for Edwin J. Kiest Elementary School. If you can mute yourself as you enter the meeting, we would appreciate it so we don't have background noise. Thank you so much. My name is Mari Carmen Heroles. I'm with Communication Services with Dallas ISD. Buenas noches y gracias por participar en esta reunión para discutir el diseño de la escuela Edwin J. Kiest. En unos momentos vamos a empezar a interpretar en español. Si desea escuchar esta presentación en español, pueden seleccionar la opción en español en la parte derecha inferior de la pantalla, el icono del mundo. Si por algún motivo no escucha al intérprete, regrese al inglés y vuelva a intentar la opción en español. Si aún no funciona, por favor avísenos a través del chat. Desafortunadamente, la opción de interpretación no es compatible con las computadoras Chromebook. Le recomendamos que intente entrar a la reunión utilizando un teléfono celular, iPhone o Android, una computadora PC, iPad o tablet para escuchar la reunión en español. Thank you again for joining us tonight. We will answer any questions you have following the presentation. If you have any questions, please raise your hand using the raised hand icon at the bottom of your screen. We will call your name and you can unmute and share your question. Or if you prefer, you can also write the questions in the chat. We will read them and get you an answer. It is my pleasure to introduce several people that are with us tonight. Our first one is our ED for the school, Ms. Lisa Vega. Is there anything you would like to share with us?
Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Heroles, for that introduction. I want to welcome everyone to the Edwin J. Kiest Elementary Bond meeting this evening. My name is Lisa Vega, and I'm the proud Executive Director for the Bryan Adams North Dallas Cluster. I want to thank Chief Alfred and the Bond team for hosting this evening. And of course, want to thank Trustee Mitchgay for your support also. But most definitely, I want to thank our Kiest staff, our teachers, our parents, and our community for being on this evening. Thank you.
Great. And now I'd like to introduce the principal, Fernando Rubio, if you can let us know a little bit about the school and how this will impact it.
So good evening. My name is Fernando Rubio, the principal at Kiest Elementary, and welcome everybody. A new building is something that the community has wanted for a long time, the community and the staff, and we're really grateful for the district, the Bond staff for ensuring that we're going to get a new building, and it's going to have a significant positive impact on our community. And so we're happy to having the second meeting and providing feedback and engagement with the community. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you. And we are fortunate to have today with us District 3 Trustee Dan Mitchgay. Would you like to address our audience?
Yes, I'd like to thank everybody for participating tonight. This is a huge opportunity. It's a huge step forward for Kiest and the community. And I also want to thank the voters for supporting a bond program. But this opportunity to have a new school can really be transformative to the neighborhood and for all of our students. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Trustee Mitchgay. And Chief Brent Alfred, Chief of Construction, if you would like to say a few words and then take us into the presentation part of this meeting.
Yes, thank you, Mary Carmen, and thank you, Kiest community, for joining us on our second Design Charrette meeting. As Mary Carmen stated, I'm Brent Alfred. I'm the Chief of Construction for Dallas ISD, and it is an honor and a privilege to work on this school for you, and I know I speak for my team when I say that. But this would not be possible without your support, voting for the 2020 bond program, and without the support of your trustees. So kudos and hats off to you guys for this. So in our first meeting, we told you to think big, bold, innovation, and generational. So we heard you. Our architects put together a presentation, capturing those concepts and responding to the polling. And, we're going to take you through that. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Tim Kanganda and his team with PGL Architecture.
Thank you, Chief Alfred. Good evening, everybody. Very excited to see a big turnout over here. We want to build on our first charrette and show you some of the design concepts that we've developed from the time we met last. So we'll go through the slides again, as Trustee Michike and Principal Rubio mentioned. We're looking to design a very transformative school that's going to be very impactful to the community. And so we're very excited to share our progress with you and make sure that we display what we heard from you all last time. So we'll go through a prologue and show some of the developed concepts and then go on to next steps. Next slide. So with the introduction, we've already gone through the introductions with Trustee Michike, Chief of Construction Services, Chief Brent Alfred, and from Jacobs, the program manager, we have the program director, Abhi Nigudkar, design manager, William Meredith, and project manager, Margaret Zaki. From the design team, I'm Tim Kanganda, the principal in charge with PGAL. And we have our project manager and project architect.
Errol Brown, project architect for the Kiest Elementary School.
Then we have Matthew Finn, design manager, Lorenzo Jones, project designer, and Brooke Ward, interior designer. So we'll start with the schedule, the project schedule. So we've gone through the programming, the first community presentation. We've started to evolve into schematic design and design development, where we're trying to show some of the developed designs to the community. So, and then the next step is to take it into construction documents and submit it to the city for permits, and then take it onto construction around February of 2024, so that the school can open in August of 2025. So Dallas ISD's anchor statement basically is to advance the lives of students, families, and staff so they can positively impact the community and realize a better future. So that's the whole goal through this design.
And just like Chief Alfred already mentioned, the Dallas ISD 2020 bond, they're going for these big ideas of think big, innovative, and generational. And that's part of our goal to convey that kind of vision to you guys this evening. So as we go through the prologue, we wanted to start out with what we have now, which is just giving you a quick overview of the current facility that you have. So we just wanted to identify the current Kiest Elementary School. Everyone in the area should be very familiar. It is your neighborhood, and you should be very proud of it. One of the things we tried to identify is, what's truly within your community. There's the Bryan Adams High School that's not too far away. You have the Harry Stone Park that is within a 5-minute walk of the elementary school. There are churches in the area, and retail and the community in general is a very, very robust community that you have. And we want to make sure that everyone gets the opportunity to actually make input as we go through this process. Looking a little bit closer onto the site of the facility that you have, our project site for the new elementary school will be directly to the east of the current school. So we're fortunate in that you have such a large site for us to work with, where we'll be able to start construction of the project directly to the east, and the current school will still be in operation. So it works out very well for you guys.
So and the whole goal while the new school is being constructed is to keep the existing school operational. And as Errol mentioned, we are very fortunate to have the land available to construct the school and keep the existing school operational. The existing school front entrance is off of Healy Drive on the south side. And so the new school will have to be at the same front entrance to maintain the same address and not create complications through the city permitting process. So as we go through the slides, we'll show you how we've configured the new school layout.
So in our previous public engagement opportunity, we surveyed the grouping on a couple of questions that we thought would be very beneficial for us to take that information forward. And so what we're going to try to do this evening is actually go through a recap and a response of how we've tried to address a lot of those questions and ideas that were put forward in the previous engagement. So one of the things that we started out with during that first session was we asked a very simple question: what is your favorite part of Kiest Elementary School? And a lot of the responses, basically, as you can see from the word cloud, started out with the garden. The community is exceptionally proud of the garden within on the property, and it's one thing that definitely they want to maintain. In addition to that, of course, you have to talk about the people, the students and the teachers. So these three items, came top of mind when it came to identifying, your favorite parts of Kiest Elementary. Following up with that, then we tried to incorporate again now the Dallas ISD bond initiatives of what they're trying to, give to the community. Again, they want the designs to be bold and innovative. And when we asked this question, what people thought bold and innovative meant to them or meant to Kiest Elementary, we got some very interesting answers and some pretty good ones too. We got some responses of exterior learning, flexibility, collaborative, sustainable. So these are basically the direction that we got to go forward with what we tried to present to you and incorporate into the design. I'm sorry, have a question? All right, I'll keep going. So as part of that, starting out with the garden. Again, this is a big, big part of Kiest Elementary, and it was repetitively brought up during our first community engagement. So one of the things that we're avidly trying to do as we go through the design process for the new facility is to maintain and possibly expand upon the garden. We want to be able to give the school the opportunity to grow that activity, not just for the students of the school, but also for the community around. And hopefully part of our idea to present to the PTA and those managing the garden is to give them ideas and opportunities to turn that garden into an even more interactive exterior learning environment. We want it to be one of those places where you not just go to do to learn the individual things of how plants grow and the circle of life and those kinds of things, but we want it to be a truly, truly interactive experience for the students and the community at large.
So taking what we heard about the garden, which is such a big, important factor for the school, the new school layout on the right side, on the east side, with Edwin J. Kiest Elementary School written on it, is configured to have two garden areas in between the north and south wings, which can cater to kids of different age groups. So you can have the younger kids on one side, keep the older kids on the other side. And as Errol mentioned, we've got a lot of opportunity to create collaborative outdoor learning spaces and help the kids learn and interact with nature and have that indoor-outdoor theme. Now, the front entrance we maintained to maintain the city address on the south side. So we got the main drop-off. We've done traffic studies, and we've studied the assessment of the new school with how it interacts with traffic. And we've got another entrance on the north side for teachers and staff to come and park over there and get into school, and also to help the kindergarten parents come in and pick up the kids at different hours. And with this double entrance layout, we still have a secure entrance to the front door, but the biggest advantage is we will minimize the backup of traffic onto Shiloh Road, which is currently happening at the school. So this will help alleviate some of the traffic congestion. So the other thing that we heard from the first charrette was to create a sustainable school. And we are definitely leaning towards creating a sustainable school through green initiatives. The City of Dallas has a green program, and we also have a collaborator for high performance schools, the CHIPS program, which forces the designers to go into a sustainable design concept and using sustainable materials. So that is definitely the direction we're heading in to keep up with the DISD's requirements. And talk about it.
Yeah, so as we continue now going to the interior of the facility, tying back again to, you know, some of the things that we identified during our first charrette, we can't forget the people. So some of the things that we've worked towards to make sure that we enhance that interaction and that experience for the teachers and the students of the facility. We've worked very, very hard to make sure that we can identify some very innovative ways of using the cafetorium that we will be actually utilizing for the facility. The SD is moving towards this hybrid space where you basically combine the cafeteria and the auditorium. And these spaces in other facilities, if you've had the opportunity to visit some other facilities, are some really great spaces, and yours will be no different. Likewise, when it comes to the actual gym itself, we want to make sure that, you know, the gym is an eerie and a light place. It's a very active space for you. It will be bigger than the current one that you have now and be very well equipped as we go through this process.
And with this layout, we have the academic wing on the north side, and we have the exterior garden spaces separating the southern wing, where we have the large common spaces and the administrative functions. So there's a clear delineation and a connection between the two wings.
Mm-hmm. So talking about the separation of the core academic spaces with the other spaces again, we're really trying to make sure that we focus on the people here in this scenario. So when we talk about what these classrooms are going to be like, they're going to be top tier as required by the district and for new facilities. So you will get all the bells and whistles that are required, and you will definitely be seeing the upgrade from the current facility. Likewise, when it comes to not just the standard academic spaces, but your arts and visual arts spaces as well, you will be getting a massive upgrade from where you are now. And we are really, really excited to hopefully get to show you this very, very soon. So following up, continuing with some of the feedback that we got, another point that we questioned the group previously on are, you know, what are your biggest priorities for Kiest Elementary? I've kind of touched on this a little bit already, where we talked about the responses really focus a lot around interactive and collaborative spaces. And in addition to that, the other thing that came up in this particular scenario was actually the idea of having more flexible spaces. So not just to be interactive, but to say that this space, just because you teach math in it one day, doesn't mean that you can't have some other kind of activity on the next day or within a couple hours. So we want spaces to be flexible, to be actually conducive to learning the way that you learn and the way that the school will evolve over time. Following up with that was a close third between both safety and security and sustainability. And Tim kind of already touched a little bit on the safety and security, where we have the 2 entries for the facility, but in reality, there's one secure vestibule entry to the south, and that's your main in and out point, where the north is truly just for exiting and pick up, not drop off, in terms of having to balance out the traffic during the early morning and late afternoon sessions.
And so from the poll that we had last time, you can see 44% voted for interactive and collaborative zones. And in the next few slides, we'll talk about how we've how we've come up with some design concepts to meet these requests.
So starting with the interactive and collaborative zones, I'm always really excited when we get to talk about the libraries and the maker spaces that students will be able to utilize going forward. Libraries are not what they used to be, and they have become these amazing spaces where you don't just go for story time anymore, or we don't just go to check out books, but they're spaces where you actually get to interact and build stuff in a lot of cases. And your library will be no different. There will be a makerspace as programmed by the district, and the district has gone to great lengths to make sure that you get these opportunities and get these facilities so that you have this opportunity going forward. And makerspaces, if you haven't been to one of your libraries recently, you really need to go and see how some of these makerspaces are fitted out. And your makerspace will definitely make you proud. Following up with that, as we move towards the core academic wing, and we didn't mention this earlier, the idea here too is that it will actually be a 2-story wing. Currently, the Kiest Elementary School that exists is a 1-story building all the way through. But your new building will have a 2-story segment on it, and that's where all the main classrooms are. And one of the things that we're definitely trying to do is to make the classroom wing not be, one of those spaces where you just have a long, boring hallway and just doors. So one of the things that we've been looking into, and we definitely want to introduce into this facility, is the idea of having an interactive hallways that the students can actually do activities within the hallway. As you go down the hallway, it changes and it's a vibrant space. So the hallway itself is a teaching space within the academic core. So not just the classrooms, but you can learn on your way to your next class and from your previous class as well. And following up with that idea to even bring this home even more, we're definitely going to be incorporating designated collaboration zones within the core academic space. So you will find pockets where you can have breakout classes, where you can have different activities to get those students moving a lot of the times, because we do know that little kids get really, really antsy staying in one spot. So this is an opportunity for a teacher to bring their students out of the classroom and into another space where they can interact in different ways and have different experiences as they go through the school day. Following that, one of the other things that we asked, we've been big with this last one in our minds, where we were like, what is your wish list? We want to know, just throw words out there, and what is your wish list? And this was the biggest word cloud that we had done in our previously engagement. You can see how many responses we actually had from that word cloud. But we went ahead and we tried to, we picked out the top 4 responses from that word cloud. And within that word cloud, again, outdoors came up number 1 in a lot of ways. And one of the interesting ones was the walkways. And we did take the opportunity at the time to question what walkways meant to the group that was on the call, because it seemed a little bit odd to us. And for some people, it probably might be. But for a lot of the responders during that session, the idea simply was we need to make sure that people feel protected and safe and covered from the elements, protected from outside influences and things like that. So we want to make sure that all of these spaces are secure spaces, all of these spaces are protected spaces, and they're comfortable spaces. That's kind of like the main thing for a lot of that. So again, outdoors came up number 1, walkways came up number 2. There are apparently some roofing issues in the current facility, which once you get a new facility, that would be completely rectified. And last but not least, one of the biggest issues, one of the biggest items, I should say, for the current staff at least, was the idea of restrooms. We've heard this multiple times over and over. I see Principal Rubio came back on camera to nod his head. And we're making the effort to make sure that we come through on making sure that we get these items addressed for you going forward. So one way that we try to address the outdoor walkway scenario, and this one is partially aesthetic for the facility, is that we intend on hopefully having a grand kind of entry canopy at your main entry. So because we want Kiest Elementary to also have, a great presence for the community, a great presence for the students and the faculty and the staff that work there day in and day out. We want to make sure that everyone that comes to this facility on a daily basis feel proud of being part of Kiest Elementary and being proud to actually attend and work at this facility. And again, we want to make sure that this is also safe. Safe and secure is top priority for schools across the country at this time, and the new facility will be no different going forward. So we also just kind of wanted to give you a couple other shots of, what potentially you could be getting going forward. The idea here from the design team is to hopefully get people excited, generate some questions, generate some comments. We want to hear back from you about, the potential of what this facility truly, truly can be.
So to enter the school, there are going to be some secure vestibules. So there will be card readers. These are going to be monitored entrances. So parents and children are safe entering the school. You get into the safe zone. And the new school will also have a storm shelter, which is going to be housed in the gymnasium. So to protect the kids and the occupants in the event of a tornado or emergency event.
And finally, kind of a segue to making this a little bit more interactive as well. What we wanted to do is present to you, a couple options of what we're thinking about from the design side of what we would like to see the facility possibly end up being. And one of the things that we were entertaining was basically the idea of playing with multiple brick colors to make it a more interesting facade as we go through. So basically what we just have on the screen is a couple of options of how we could potentially interchange and interact with these different brick colors and facade feelings as we go through, but really to spark some ideas and to spark some comment from the group.
So as we're developing the design, here's an example that you can see showing the different massing and the scale of the building, the different volumes. But what we'd like to do is get your feedback from the community on your preferences for the exterior brick color, and from the school staff who know the kids so well, and the neighborhood, to see if you all have a preference. So we've shown on the top row an example of a brick palette with different colors, accent colors, and a field color. And option B, we've got some lighter colors, but this is wide open for your feedback. We want to take your feedback and your preferences and incorporate it into the new design and exterior materials, interior materials, and so on.
And with that, we have come to the end of our portion of the presentation. We want to thank everyone for giving us the opportunity to present and work for you guys, because we are truly here at your service. And any comments, feedback, we greatly appreciate your input, because it helps us make this facility better for those who are going to be using it for years to come. Thank you so much.
And thank you for this presentation, and very exciting to see how the new school is taking shape. And if you have any questions or comments, or you would like to provide input, there are two ways to do this. You can do it by raising the hand, and we'll ask you to unmute, or you can put the information in the chat. So I think we have a raised hand. Mr. Rogelio Lara, if you would like to unmute and share your thoughts.
Yes, this is Ms. Ramos. I'm with Mr. Lara. As far as the cafeteria, is there any way? Is that a done deal? The only reason I'm asking is we use our auditorium for picture days, for assemblies, all of that while we're having lunches. So if it's a combined area, our lunches go from 10:45 for pre-K to about 1 something for 5th grade. So then that cuts our time, since it's a double used area, because we have an auditorium right now and a cafeteria. So that's going to cut our time.
I'll jump in and I'll let Tim and his team respond as well. We either do a cafetorium or a gymatorium. So, we do have a choice between those two spaces. And Tim, do you want to add on to that?
Sure, Chief Alfred. So the whole idea is for us to have a dual purpose flexible space. And we understand that the lunches will have to be staggered, but the main goal over here is for us to provide a facility that functions well and to give the community a school which has all the core functions based on the cost and the budget. Currently, the market has gone through the roof in construction costs, and we want to make sure that when this school is built, the community has all the different spaces that's necessary to keep the school running efficiently. So the dual space, the cafetorium, can easily be staggered. It's used in almost every new school across the district and in many other districts as well, mainly because from a cost saving standpoint and as well as a functionality standpoint. And one of the items that we heard was a flexibility. When you have an auditorium with fixed seats, it can be used only for certain functions. It does not have the flexibility to have dual functions or dual events when you have parents and gatherings and so on. And with this design, you do have that additional opportunity to have a flex space.
And I'll just add a little bit on to what Tim and Chief Alfred actually said. Chief Alfred put out the option of the gymatorium as the alternate. For us and for this facility, our gymnasium is actually being used as our storm shelter. And that kind of restricts the flexibility in terms of the design and the ability to have a more vibrant space in a lot of scenarios. And unfortunately, cost does tie into that a little bit. So it is a hardened space for our gymnasium to make it into the storm shelter requirements that we have to abide by. So in that scenario, we opted to go towards the cafetorium because the gym already has its dual function. So this now gives the cafeteria its dual function as well.
Oh, no, I understand that, but I know, having gone through this process before, we had at Joe May a cafeteria, a gym, and a flex space where we didn't have an auditorium, but we did have an open space because we had that problem with the cafetorium, and there's no way to get all your kids into lunches and have an assembly at the same time. There's just no way to get all your kids in to doing the lunches and having assemblies because you only have a certain amount of time to get all the kids, even with staggered lunches, it just doesn't work. So yes, you don't have to have necessarily an auditorium with fixed seats. You can have a flexible space, an open space, but you can't do a cafeteria and an open and a gym. It doesn't work. You need 3 spaces because you can't, there's not enough time to do picture days or to do assemblies or have those things. You're gonna lose something in that mix.
Okay, we'll take note of that, and
Okay.
Tim, I'll get with the team, and we'll look at, they were talking about the gymnasium being the storm shelter, but we may look at some opportunities. I've seen some ideas from some other campuses, but as I mentioned, it would be one or the other serving that dual function, and I hear you loud and clear about how you guys are utilizing the cafeteria, and we may need to pivot that, but we will have a follow-up meeting and come back to you on that. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
And we have a comment agreeing with Ms. Ramos. 3 spaces would be better if at all possible. So just wanted to let you know others are supporting that idea. And we do have a question in the chat. Just curious where the queuing lanes are going to be.
So the queuing lanes, and I'll try to skip back as quickly as I can in the presentation here. Okay, so the queuing lanes are actually going to be on the south side. So basically this would be one directional in the morning, where we would actually have double lanes stacking when we get to the drop off for students. So unlike the current facility where it's one lane and it actually backs up, we can actually do double stack lanes here. And this is where we'd actually have our queuing. So we are actually, I believe, 2.5 times the length of your current queuing scenario.
Okay, so when you say double stacking, are you saying double queue? What does that mean to you?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
two lines of traffic.
okay. And that's the first one. Is that the only one?
So based on the traffic management studies, this is sufficient to accommodate the full build out of 850 kids and to be dropped off. But in the evening, we also have the queuing lanes on the north side where cars can queue up and pick up the children and leave. So it keeps the flow very efficient.
Show me on the north side where the queuing lanes are, if you don't mind.
So the
Okay,
queuing
so-
would be coming down here and coming around
Mhm.
and out.
And go back out.
So you're-
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Again, raise your hand and we'll call on you. Amanda Cervantes, please. Unmute
Hi,
yourself.
yes. I'm the art teacher. I just had a few questions. I think you mentioned that the art room is, the design isn't fully finished yet. Is that correct? For the art room? Okay.
It's in progress. We are soliciting feedback and input, and we are definitely working with the school and the principal and the staff to incorporate whatever feedback we can get into the new design as we develop it.
Okay, because I was just wondering because currently the current classroom doesn't have a room for the kiln where you do the ceramics. So I was just wondering if there could be like a separate kiln room and also possibly like an extra storage room for storage just within the classroom.
Yes, that's actually been addressed by the district. So as part of the actual program that was handed to us at the beginning of the project, the art space actually has a dedicated kiln room and a dedicated storage outside of the square footage that's actually used for the art room proper.
Okay.
Any other questions? You can write them in the chat. You can raise your hand and unmute if you have a question or a comment. Marisela Zuniga?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm a bit ill here with the sore throat here. I do have a question on the outside. What's it called? A playground. Will they be covered? Because I know when, especially, when school starts, the heat and the sun beating down on us and the kids, it's pretty brutal sometimes.
Yeah, so again, the district actually has you guys covered in this regard. So part of the new requirements for the playground apparatus within these areas that they are actually supposed to be covered. I forget right now exactly what the percentage of that covering is, but they do require covering. So the district has looked out for you guys, and that's actually part of the requirement.
Thank you. Any other questions? Were there any areas where you were soliciting specific feedback tonight? If you'd like to go over those again.
In very general terms, what we kind of wanted was what we've gotten, to be quite honest, in terms of a response to the traffic flow. That was one of the big ones we actually had on our list. And the other one was really about the entry and, well, the entry ideas that we had, just again, for the presence of the facility. So, if anyone had any additional feedback about potentially, let me skip to this one, potentially what you would like to see or what you think about the ideas being presented in terms of the stature of the facility, whether or not you basically any kind of general feedback about what we're presenting tonight.
And feel free, if you have feedback about any of those items, just raise your hand. We'll ask you to unmute so you can share that feedback. Or if you'd rather just type it into the chat, that is also another way to let us know. Rogelio Zubia?
Yes, I'm wondering why it has to be so close to the road with the amount of space available, the amount of land available. Is there any way to get it like more centric so we could use that land?
Yes. So the existing school has to remain operational through fall of 2025. So the land available to construct the new school is on the east side. But the advantage is after the new school is constructed, the existing school will be demolished, which will open up the majority of the land, and it's going to be very similar to your current configuration.
Does that answer your question, or do you want them to point it out more specifically on the map?
Yes, that answers it. I was just curious as to why the walls are just so close to the sidewalk. That was it. Thank you, though.
Thank you. Any other? This is your chance to let the architects know what you think of these ideas and to share them before they go back and tweak the plan. So do not be shy. And again, just you can raise your hand or you can write it in the chat if you don't want to speak up. We will definitely have in the chat. Okay, so how far is the school set to be away from Shiloh Road at the moment?
Off the top of my head, I want to say it's roughly somewhere in the region of 30 on the north end. So the closest area here to the sidewalk, if I remember correctly, right now the way we have it set is about 30 feet. And the sidewalk veers off to the east a little bit, so it gets greater as it heads south.
So there are two wings. The end of the wings is what's closer to Shiloh, but between the curb to the road, from between the road and the school, you're looking at about a good 40 to 45 feet, including the right of way. But the majority of the school has an interior courtyard, which pushes the bulk of the school away from the main road. So, and north and south, the building is centered on site. So you have a good amount of open space both on the north and south sides.
Okay. And somebody was wondering about the front of the school, if it will be renovated, but it seems like you're just get rid of it, right?
Correct. The existing school will be demolished after the new school is constructed. And so we want to try and maximize the bond dollars to the new school. So there will not be any renovations to the existing school.
Yes, and that site will be turned over. And so the fields that are currently being cannibalized to create the new school will then exist where the old school currently sits. So the football field and those things will end up on that side of the site.
Great, thank you. And I apologize for the coughing fit.
You are fine.
Will there be more visitor parking?
So in terms of the parking counts, we've gone up in parking pretty significantly with our initial proposal. I want to say that we are 1.5 times what you currently have for parking. It actually might be a little bit more as this is still high level, but I want to say it's between 1.5 times to 1.75 times the current amount of parking that you have.
And the new parking is going to have all new concrete paving and fire lanes. And right now, the existing one is an asphalt parking, which is not in very good condition. So it'll be a much improved situation.
Great. And this is more of a comment than a question. The gym should not be the focal point in the front of the school. I don't know if you want to go over what that would look like. And
so for us, I'll go to the last image. So I guess that goes back to kind of the question that we were trying to pose in terms of the entrance and the presence that we have with it. Our idea is, because this is the intended now to be the southeast corner of the site. Basically, as you come down Shiloh, this is one of the things that you'll see directly from that corner to the southeast. And our intent, or what we were hoping to achieve, is to make it abundantly clear where the entry is, and so that your eye is drawn to this focal point. The location of the gym at this point kind of just became what it is due to the size of the storm shelter requirements that we currently have. But we can do, our intent is to make sure that your eye is drawn towards the entry of the school and not towards the gym.
So the main focal point is going to be the front doors or the entrance. It's going to be a double height, double story volume. So anyone coming up to the school will be clearly drawn to the front doors. And again, we're going to be working on colors and exterior finished materials to accentuate the front entrance. So the front door will really be the focal point of the front of the school. And again, it'll be accented with flagpoles. You got the covered walkways where parents can drop the kids off and they have protection going through the front door. So what you see on this by the front door is really what's going to be the focal point. Even though the gym is a big mass on the front, but the colors and the appearance and volume and the scale of the front doors will draw the visitor to this as a focal point.
Another question in the chat. And are there any changes to the existing fence sidewalk, or is that where we should expect the barrier to remain?
So very recently, actually, DISD made the decision to upgrade all the fencing. So it will no longer be chain link fencing around the property. So that is one benefit to a DSD decision that has been made. In addition to, sorry, what was the second half? You said, oh, the sidewalks. In relation to the sidewalks, again, now this is actually a city requirement. The sidewalks will actually be upgraded in terms of the width of the sidewalks. They will become wider than a foot wider than they are currently. So between the sidewalk improvements and the fencing improvements, the property is going to get a facelift all the way around.
Okay. And speaking of facelift, are there any other brick color choices that we can, than the combinations you presented?
Yes, there are always more brick color choices. We didn't put additional ones on this presentation. Part of the process is to actually have a separate meeting with faculty and staff where we actually go through the color palette for the entire school. This is going to be both interior and exterior, where they would basically whittle down. We'll present multiple options then as well. And this would actually be whittled down to the preferred choices, which I'm not exactly clear on the sequencing, but that may or may not come up in the third community charrette.
Okay. And will there be a digital marquee, and where will it be located?
So there will be a digital marquee, and that is going to be by the front entry. So the intent is the marquee will either be housed in this corner or in this corner, but it will be at this main entry of the school.
Okay. And somebody mentioned that the front entrance to the school should be in the middle, I guess, of the building. Is that a possibility?
So the way we've been working with the school staff and from the first community shared, the biggest flexibility that the new school is going to get when kids get dropped off at the front entrance is they'll be sent over to the cafeteria or to the gymnasium to assemble before being taken to classes. So we want those big public spaces closer to the entrance. And we want the entrance on the east side as parents drive up and drop the kids off. And they have a covered walkway so they can get into the school quickly, and especially in inclement weather, and then go straight to the cafeteria and gymnasium. So all that is located in proximity to the front door. And on the far east, we have the library, which opens out to outdoor areas. And when you have community meetings or parent-teacher meetings, they can get into the school, and without them wandering in through the middle of the school, we want them to go straight to the library or media center and assemble over there and have those meetings. So we're trying to keep the security as a high priority here.
Thank you.
And secondly, on the far west, we also have the kitchen and food services with a different access drive, so that we're not mixing the parent drop off and the vehicles for the dads and moms with the garbage trucks and the delivery trucks. So we're trying to keep it safe and separated again.
Thank you. And Cora Cooper has a question if you want to unmute.
Hi, yes. I know you've mentioned the front walk a couple times being for inclement weather, but will it be like wide enough to help with like dismissal at the end of the day if we have like groups of students standing out there? Will it be kind of like wide enough to give them that coverage and protection?
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be much wider than what we have at the current school. And so it is going to be wide enough to have kids queuing up and being able to be lined up to get into their cars and vehicles.
And Rogelio Zubia also had a question.
It's a 2-in-1 question. Is there a road that's going to go right down the middle on the left side of the school?
No, there's not going to be any road cutting through the side. It is separated on the north and south side. What you see on the west side is purely a delivery entrance, which is going to be restricted. It's not for the public, but there's nothing cutting through the side.
Okay, and just glancing at it, it looks like it's all getting like boxed and piled together in a very small space, like really close to the property line. But there's so much area to build on. Is there any way to make it more centric and expand it a little bit? It just feels very piled up.
So the north and south sides are being taken up by the parking and fire lanes. And the new school is located in the center between the north and south streets. And it's really not as close to the road as it's perceived to be. You've got a good 40-45 foot distance from the curb line, if not a little bit more. And those are really the stairwells and some of the spaces where the kids are not going to be close to the street at any point. And the way it's configured is to create the courtyard so the bulk of the school is away from the main road.
Well, in addition to the earlier point of the existing school is going to be here while we're under construction, so we don't have the entire site to build this school. We have the east side of this site to build the school. So based on the upgraded size and the upgraded amenities, we basically, as it's currently set up, and there are variations of what could happen, we are limited in terms of the availability during construction. But all of this, where the existing school will be turned over after the new school is completed.
Again, safety is very critical during construction. So we want a clean division between the existing school, which is going to remain operational, while the new school is being constructed. So it's going to be the exact same layout as the existing school, where you have a big wide open space on the east side, but now it's going to be flip-flopped, and you're going to get the new school on the east side, and the west side will all become a wide open space for future expansion or any other use, but mainly for outdoor sports and so on, after the school is demolished.
It just seems that there's a lot of barrier empty space between the existing school and the planned school. The planned school seems to be on about a third of the land size, whereas the existing school takes up right at or a little bit more than half. And I'm aware of the safety issues, but we do have schools currently under construction with kids in them, and it seems to work out. So once it's built, it can't be moved. So I would love for the space to be used, because if it's too far away from the building, then it's dead space. It won't be used. If it was more centric, it gives us that opportunity to actually use the allotted area.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up. So this is a two-story school, and what we have on the screen right there is a one-story school. So, and the main reason is we don't want to create impervious areas which will trigger a detention pond, which will take up real estate, from the property. So we're trying to avoid a detention pond. So we've actually gone to a two-story concept, and that will minimize the footprint. And we got new driveways and additional parking, all that which contributes to impervious areas. And even with the new layout and the current layout, it really doesn't trigger the requirement for a detention pond, which is really not desirable on the site.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out the time. We'll be here till you have no more questions, but just to be respectful of everyone's time, it is 8 o'clock right now. So if you have any questions, please keep them coming. We'll hang in here with you guys until we run out of questions. But if you mull this over and have questions later, or we'll have this presentation also available on the Bond 2020 website for this particular project. What is a good place to ask, send questions or comments or share some feedback?
I'm going to drop my email in the chat if anybody wants to follow up after the meeting, or just anytime in between while we're designing, in between our next meeting. I'll get it to the team.
Great. And we do have a question from Ms. Gray and a couple others in the chat. So Ms. Gray, if you want to unmute.
Well, I just have one suggestion. I don't know if it's actually plausible, but kind of like what Mr. Zubia was saying, would it be possible to maybe remove the portables to maybe scoot the future building over slightly so it does feel a little more central? Currently, I know at Kiest, we do have classrooms that are empty and the portables really aren't being used. And so I think that it's possible to possibly remove those portables, inch the future building over, and still have our school be functioning while construction is happening.
So that's definitely a great point, but what we also want to do with this layout is give room for the school to expand in the future, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. We want those academic wings to expand towards the west. So by locating the school on the east side, it does open up the open space on the west side for future expansion as well. And while the school can remain operational. But if we center it, well, one is we cannot center it because the existing school needs to be operational. But the disadvantage of moving it around is it limits the possibilities for future expansion.
And just to, I guess, to add to the option of moving the portables, we actually are going to be moving the vast majority of the portables. There are only currently 2, I believe, that we plan on leaving in operation after having discussions with Principal Rubio in terms of what's actually being used, and that is to say, what happens in terms of the service area for the kitchen area. All of this is basically roughly about the same distance that everyone is referencing in terms of how far it is from the street. There's not a lot of distance between the existing school and where we actually would be ending our construction line. So the idea of how much would be gained, we're talking possibly maybe 20 feet in terms of shifting it over, but a lot of that's actually is going to be utilized in terms of the construction for the service road and getting into this service area while we make the transition between the old and the new when construction comes close to an end.
And that is an excellent segue for the question we have in the chat about how much footprint, I know it's great when it works out that way. How much footprint should we expect construction to take up around the community while they're building the new school, street closures, etc.?
You want to take this one?
Yeah, so during construction, we're going to have a construction entrance which will direct construction traffic onto the site, on the east half of the site, and there'll be a construction fence around separating the new school and the existing school. So we don't anticipate any street closures other than for a very brief temporary time when the utilities are being connected, which is pretty normal during construction. But for the most part, the bulk of the construction is going to be restricted to on-site activities.
And because the parking areas are situated the way that they are, it gives us the opportunity to stage on both the north and the south, which limits any potential overflow beyond the perimeter of the site.
And another question we have is, how many playgrounds are there going to be in the new school?
So there are going to be 2 designated playgrounds that we've identified within the immediate bounds, if you will, of our current layout. Beyond that, there's actually going to be a 3rd playground up to the north. And when the existing school is demolished, this entire area is going to be repurposed into the fields and the connection of the current garden back to the existing facility. So there are actually quite a few landscaping opportunities that we're exploring for when the existing school actually gets demolished and how we make those connections. But in terms of the immediate secured area, and I'll also just point out these areas are actually larger than what Kiest currently has. So these 2 areas really qualify as 4, but our intent isn't to have 4 because we also have an idea of potentially having another outdoor learning space just north of the library, which would be adjacent to a play area here. So these 2 areas really turn into 4 areas, and then we'll have lots of opportunities when we go through the demolition of the existing school.
Okay, so we have a question from Mr. Mitchgate, not for you guys, but more for me. When will the recording be available for this meeting? We'll have it in the next couple of days. It'll take us a little, like a day or 2 to edit it and prepare it. And then we'll post it. So we will let you know when it's posted. And I will also send Principal Rubio an email when it's been posted, so he can share with the community if that's something that he can do, and so we can get more feedback that way. Another comment: service road can be the last thing built, maybe over the summer when the school is closed. Can even be built where the existing school is now after it's torn down. Just a comment more than a question, but we do have Cora Cooper who has her hand up. So if you want to. unmute.
Thank you. Another quick question. For the playgrounds, I did miss a tiny bit of what you were saying, but my question is about, are any of those play areas suitable for like inclement weather? Like on rainy days or cold days? Will any of that be kind of sheltered enough that kids could still go out for like lunch recess, just so they have some outdoor time, when otherwise like the gym would be full, and of course, the playground isn't suitable, or the regular playground wouldn't be suitable?
The play areas are right now envisioned to be outdoor areas, so they're not going to be covered. The actual playground equipment areas will have some covers and canopies to provide some protection from the sun, but during the rain, the kids would have to be indoors because there's no roof over the play areas. Right now it's open.
We don't have any more questions in the chat and nobody else raising their hand. So there's still a chance if you want to get in a question or a comment. Is there, Chief Alfred included his email. If you have any other thoughts or concerns or questions, feel free to email him. If Mr. Rubio, do you want to say a few words to kind of close us out? And then we'll, Mr. Michke and Chief Alfred, Mr. Rubio.
All right, thank you so much. I want to thank the community and the staff that was on this call. I think there was great feedback, great suggestions. And so I know the district and the bond staff and everybody involved in the building of the school is going to take into consideration what the community wants. So thank you so much for providing some excellent feedback.
Mr. Michke, is anything you'd like to add?
Well, I would just like to echo those comments and thank everyone for participating tonight, and thanking the architects and the bond team for putting together this meeting. I think the input is really valuable, and I look forward to seeing some more comments and seeing what the team does with the comments. So thank you all for being here tonight.
Great, thank you. And Chief Alfred, if you want to close out the evening.
Yes, thank you. Yes, this is great feedback. I mean, this is exactly what these meetings are designed to get this type of feedback. We've never done this process before, and we learn at every step of the way. So you've given us some challenges. We're going to meet with the team, huddle up amongst us, and then pick a date on the calendar. We can come back and kind of present some of those solutions to you. Like I say, this is not our final meeting. There will be a follow-up with our solutions, and we'll talk to you then. So with that, I'll say a good night. Thank you, guys.